The Mississippi River is the longest river in the world and has played a huge part in the history of the United States. 230 million tons of sediment are moved every year, which flow into the delta, counteracting the erosional forces of the ocean. In 1927, the Mississippi River experienced the largest flood in recorded history, killing over 500 people and causing $1 billion in damages, the equivalent of 1/3 of the United States budget. The solutions of the time generally involved creating man-made embankments to prevent overflowing. We call these levees. To this day, we continue to build levees, amassing approximately 1,607 miles of levees along the Mississippi River, excluding its tributaries. Today, we are aware that levee building unintentionally restricts the flow of sediments, disrupting the depositional counterbalance at the river's delta. People must seek alternative methods to help restore the coastline and surrounding wetlands of Louisiana. By 2050, Louisiana is predicted to lose about $37 billion worth of usable land due to coastal erosion. Between 1970 and 2040, the coastline is predicted to move inland by about 33 miles. This puts the coastal population at risk of losing valuable land and possibly their homes. In addition, many wildlife species depend on wetlands as habitat for their whole lives or for crucial life stages. Due to dams and levees, the river now carries half the sediment than it did 70 years ago, and its delta erodes more sediment than is replenished. These human factors, in addition to natural processes such as storms, have led to a system that is on the verge of collapse if immediate action isn't taken to preserve the Mississippi River Delta wetlands. The state of Louisiana realized that there was an urgent issue that needed to be addressed in terms of coastal erosion. The Coast 2050 plan, enacted in 1998, aims to address the industry, culture, and environment of the coast of Louisiana. The intention is to reconstruct a sustainable coastal ecosystem that is no longer on the brink of collapse by the year 2050. One project under the Coast 2050 plan is currently pumping the Mississippi water into the marshes of Breton Sound. This action helps to preserve 16,000 acres of wetlands every year. Since the start of the project, there has been a net increase of 5.9% of wetlands per year in the affected area. Other conservation efforts are being done off the coast by small non-profit groups like the Audubon Society, Environmental Defense Fund, and National Wildlife Foundation. There are a few options being considered by the state to help mitigate the loss of coastal erosion and damage caused by flooding. These potential actions include removing dams and levees, raising houses and buildings, constructing sediment diversions, dredging to form barrier islands and to help rebuild coastline, oyster reef restoration, and improving the overall management of the river by controlling water flow and salinity.
We showed several students a short video explaining the problem at hand, explained the 6 solutions and clarified any questions they had, and asked them which solutions they thought would be best. This is what they had to say.
I would think that using sediment diversion would be a good strategy, because at that point, obviously I don't know what the cost would be of doing each one of these things. It looks like sediment diversion wouldn't be very costly, and it's a very direct way to get the required sediment from one area to the other without having to destroy any dams or raise any houses. If that's not a viable option, if this seems to be more expensive than I think it is, then the passive route of raising homes would then be an okay route to go on, because at least then any redirected water wouldn't cause flooding to local homes.
I think sediment diversion seems like the best option in this situation.
I think restoring the river flow and the balance would be best, because like dams, I know they make a lot of electricity, so just like tearing it down would probably have some effect on the economy, and raising homes seems like a short-term solution if it's just going to keep eroding everything away. I do like the sediment diversion idea. It seems like it'd be a lot of work and very expensive to build like channels from the river all the way down. But I think restoring the river flow to like what it should be would be the best course of action.
So dam removal is the one that I'm most familiar with, so I would go with that one because I know it has had some effect up in Maine for certain places near the coast. When the river comes down, it was starting to be diverted. I forget exactly where.
I feel like if I were to like choose like two to start with, I would choose dam removal and oyster reef restoration. Seems like they seem like the least I don't want to say invasive, because you could argue oyster reef restoration is kind of invasive, but the most like natural causes. And then if that kind of fails to work, then I would kind of move towards dredging and sediment diversion.
All of these options have the intended goal of restoring the wetlands surrounding the Mississippi River, to not only help conserve the native species to the wetlands, but to ensure the health of the wetlands so that they can prevent further loss of the coastline and mitigate flooding. Sediment diversions and dredging to build barrier islands can create the environment needed to attain this goal. The recommendation being made to address the issue works bilaterally to restore the flow of sediments and to protect them from erosion as the delta land grows back. Sediment diversions mimic the natural land building process that occurred before the Mississippi River was modified by people. During high flow periods, diversions open up to allow high energy water to move along massive amounts of sediments through special channels. Dredging to create marshes works by using sediments from the Mississippi River or offshore shoals to build land that has been lost in shallow open water. These two strategies work alongside each other in an efficient way to tackle wetland loss on both a spatial and temporal scale. The ultimate goal in complete restoration would be to construct a society around the Mississippi River Delta which thrives in harmony with the natural processes in the surrounding environment. The two strategies, dredging and sediment diversions, working in tandem, can provide a foundational and effective restoration effort. The Mississippi River Delta communities deserve stability and peace of mind, knowing that their loved ones, their homes, and their livelihoods are protected to the fullest extent. Bringing these conservation efforts to fruition would represent a gigantic leap in the right direction.